Okay, we are on chapter 15 now, which is the warning. So Maya escaped the hornets, and now she is off to go and warn her family of bees of what's to come. Little Maya summoned every bit of strength and willpower she had left. Like a bullet, she shot from the muzzle of a gun and darted through the propelling dawn in a lightning beeline for the woods, where she knew she would be safe for the moment and could hide herself away should the hornet regret having let her go and follow in pursuit. Gossamer veils hung everywhere over the level country. Big drops fell from the trees on the dry leaves carpeting the ground, and the cold in the woods threatened to paralyse little Maya's wings. No ray of dawn had yet found its way between the trees. The air was as hushed as if the sun had forgotten the earth, and all creatures had laid themselves down to eternal rest. Maya therefore flew up into the air, and only one thing mattered: to get back as quickly as strength and wits permitted to her hive and her people, her endangered home. She must warn her people. They must prepare against the attack, which the terrible hornets had planned for that very morning. Oh, if only the nation of bees had the chance to arm and make ready its defences. It was well able to cope with its stronger opponents, but a surprise assault at rising time. What if the queen and soldiers were still asleep? The success of the hornets would be assured. They would take prisoners and give no quarter. Oh, it would be horrible. Thinking of the strength and energy of her people, their readiness to meet their death, their devotion to their queen, the little bee felt a great wrath against her enemies, the hornets. Her beloved people. No sacrifice was too great for them. Little Maya's heart swelled with the ecstasy of self-sacrifice and the dauntless courage of enthusiasm. It was not easy for her to find her way over the woods, long before she had ceased to observe landmarks, as did the other bees, who had great distances to come back with their loads of nectar. She felt she had never flown as high before. The cold hurt, and she could scarcely distinguish the objects below. What can I go by, she thought. No one stands out. I shan't be able to reach my people and help them. Oh, no, and here I had a chance to atone in my desertion. What shall I do? What shall I do? Suddenly some secret force steered her into a certain direction. Oh, what is pushing and pulling me? It must be homesickness guiding me back to my country. She gave way to her instincts and flew swiftly on. Soon, in the distance, looking like grey domes in the dim light of the dawn, showed the mighty lindens of the castle park. She exclaimed with delight. She knew where she was. She dropped closer and closer to earth. In the meadows on the side hung the luminous wisps of fog, thicker here than in the woods. She thought of the flower sprites who cheerfully died their early death inside the floating bales. That inspired her anew with confidence. Her anxiety disappeared. Let her people spawn her from the kingdom. Let the queen punish her from deserting them. If only the bees were spared this dreadful invasion from the hornets. Close to the long stone wall shone the silver fir that shielded the bee city against the west wind. And there she could see them distinctly now. There were the red, blue and green portals of her homeland. The stormy pounding of her heart nearly robbed her of her breath, but as she flew towards the red entrance which led to her people and her queen. On the flying board, 2 centaurs blocked the entrance and laid hands upon her. Maya was too breathless to utter a syllable, and the sentinels threatened to kill her. For a bee to force its way into a strange city without the Queen's consent is a capital offence. "Stand back," cried one of the sentinels, thrusting her roughly away. "What's the matter with you? If you don't leave this instant, you'll die. Did you ever," he turned to the other sentinel, "have you ever seen the like? And before daytime, too." Now Maya pronounced the password by which all the bees knew one another, and the sentinels instantly released her. "What?" they cried. "You are one of us, and we don't know you." "Let me get to the Queen," groaned the little bee. "Right away, quick. We are in terrible danger." The sentinels still hesitated. They could not grasp the situation. "The Queen may not be awakened before sunrise," said one. "Then," Maya screamed, her voice rising to a passionate yell, such as the sentinels had probably never heard from a bee before, "then the Queen will never wake up alive. Death is to follow at my heels. Take me to the Queen. Take me to the Queen, I say." Her voice was so wild that the sentinels were frightened and obeyed. The three hurried together through the warm, well-known streets and corridors. Maya recognised everything, and for her excitement and the tremendous need for haste, her heart quivered with sweet melancholy at the sight of the dear, familiar scenes. "I am home," she stammered with pale lips. In the Queen's reception room, she almost broke down. One of the sentinels supported her, while the other hurried with the unusual message to the private chambers. Both of them now realised that something momentous was taking place, and the messenger ran as fast as his legs would carry him. The first wax generators were already up. Here and there a little head thrust itself out of curiosity from the openings. The news of the incident travelled quickly. 2 officers emerged from the private chambers, and Maya recognised them instantly. In solemn silence, without a word to her, they took their posts, one on each side of the doorway. The Queen would soon appear. She came without her court, attended only by her aide and 2 ladies in waiting. She hurried straight over to Maya. When she saw what state the child was in, the severe expression on her face relaxed a little. The Queen came without her court. "Oh, sorry. You came with an important message. Who are you?" Maya could not speak at once. Finally, she managed to frame 2 words. "The Hornets." The Queen turned pale, but her composure was unshaken and mine was somewhat calmed. "Almighty Queen," she cried, "forgive me for not respecting the duties I owe your Majesty. Later I will tell you everything I have done. I repent, with my whole heart I repent. Just a while ago, as by miracle, I escaped from the fortress of the Hornets, and the last I heard that they were planning to attack, to plunder our kingdom at dawn." The wild dismay that the little bee's words produced was indescribable. The ladies in waiting set up a loud wail. The officers at the door turned pale and made as if to dash off the sound of the alarm. "Goodness me!" and wheeled completely round because he wanted to see on all sides for once. As for the Queen, it was really extraordinary to see with what composure, what resourcefulness she received the dreadful news. She drew herself up, and there was something in her attitude that both intimidated and inspired endless confidence. Little Maya was awed. Never, she felt, had she witnessed anything so superior. It was like a great, magnificent event in itself. The Queen beckoned the officers to her side and uttered a few rapid sentences aloud. At the end, Maya heard, "I give you 1 for the execution of my orders, a fraction of a second longer, and it will cost your heads." But the officers scarcely looked as if they needed this incentive. In less time it takes you to tell they were gone. Their instant readiness was a joy to behold. "Oh, my Queen," said Maya. The Queen inclined her head to the little bee, who once again for a brief moment saw her monarch's counterbalance beam upon her gently, lovingly. "You have our thanks," she said. "You have saved all of us. No matter what your previous conduct may have been, you have made up for it 1,000-fold. But go, rest, little girl. You look very sad, and your hands are trembling." "I should like to fight for you," Maya stammered, quivering. "Don't worry about us," replied the Queen. "Among the thousands inhabiting the city, there is not one who would hesitate a moment to sacrifice his life for me and for the welfare of our country. Please go to sleep peacefully." She bent over and kissed the little bee on the forehead. Then she beckoned to her ladies in waiting and bade them to see Maya's rest and comfort. Maya stirred to the depths of her being, allowing herself to be led away. After this, life had nothing lovelier to offer. As in a dream, she heard the loud, clear signals in the distance, saw the high states of assemble around the royal chambers, heard a dull, far-echoing drone that shook the hive from roof to foundation. "The soldiers, our soldiers," whispered the ladies in waiting at her side. The last thing Maya heard in the little room where her companions put her to bed was the tramp of soldiers marching past the door, and commands shouted in a blithe, resolute, ringing voice. Into her dreams, echoing as far from a distance, she carried the ancient song of the soldier bees. "Sunlight, sunlight, golden sheen, by the glow your lives are lightened. Bless our labours, bless our Queen, let us always be united." Right, see you for the next chapter.